Let's go, Rocky Top. It is cigar week, baby. The third weekend in October. Tennessee and Alabama. Now, I will tell you this. Never can I remember in my life how a hyped up matchup like this one has changed just over the course of 2 weeks. Right? Imagine how you felt about this game before Arkansas and before Alabama played Vanderbilt. I mean, there were real people, including myself, that wondered if Alabama and Tennessee were the best teams in the Southeastern Conference, even over Texas. And now so much has changed over the past couple of weeks, right? Both teams had an ugly loss on the road. Both teams had an ugly win at home versus teams that you would have expected them to take care of pretty easily. And now we get a game in which Tennessee fans probably feel a lot more uncomfortable going in to the Alabama game than Alabama fans have going in to this Tennessee game. Okay? So I always go back and I always recommend people do this. Print out a helmet schedule matrix, okay? This always provides clarity for me, just the sequences of bye weeks and so on and so on, all right? So Alabama this weekend versus Tennessee will be playing their fourth game in 4 weeks, and the game, of course, being at Tennessee, and Tennessee will be playing their third game in 3 weeks, but it is a back-to-back home game scenario where Alabama, they had the emotional game versus Georgia, then on the road to Nashville, then the home game versus South Carolina, and then on the road to Rocky Top. So does Tennessee have a rest advantage here? They do. It's not some massive rest advantage or anything like that. But, for me going into the game, I feel a lot of Tennessee fans feel unfreaking believably uncomfortable about the offense, right? Lance Hurd still having his pass protection issues. Of course, the wide receiver room not making difficult catches. So today I'm going to make some suggestions, and obviously the guy that most are wondering at this point if he should even be benched is NICO. Right? We say hi to Volcano in the chat. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in to every single live stream that we do. And we want to once again thank our friends at nooffseason.com for all their support of what we are doing here. Okay. So I'll be real. And I do think this is important in the grand scheme of this discussion. I do think the best player in this game is on Alabama's team. Of course, that being Ryan Williams. And he's also the youngest player in this game. But you do have James Pierce coming off SEC Defensive Player of the Week on the other side of the football. You probably feel a little bit better about the Tennessee secondary. That's been a weakness that everyone circled. But, of course, Tennessee secondary has not really played an elite quarterback. Obviously, Graham Mertz, the injury changed the outcome of this Tennessee game in many ways. But, if I'm Tennessee, you take a look at the huge injury. Peely, the really talented player in the trenches, is out for the season, right? Obviously, it helps out that you're really, really, really deep at the single most important deep position in the SEC. So, there you go. We say hi to Tony in Tennessee. He's one of my LSU guys. Say hi to Ian. Thank you so much. I appreciate the love for the videos. And Jared McCoy is a stud, says Volcano. Now, I do want this to be known going into this weekend. We probably won't post the Tennessee versus Alabama film study until Monday because I am traveling for LSU Arkansas for the game in Fayetteville. So once again, Tennessee, Alabama, that film study will be posted more than likely on Monday. Now, let's take a look at the positives here. Obviously, Tennessee has the best running back in this game with Dylan Sampson. Jam Miller has been really good for Alabama. Justice Haynes isn't bad in his own right. Both offensive lines have struggled. I would say Tennessee's has struggled more mightily over the past couple of weeks. But, both teams have had their offensive line issues. And the funny thing about it on the back end is the coverages for Alabama have been worse than Tennessee's. I don't think anybody would have expected that going into the season. But Alabama has had their fair share of coverage mistakes. Obviously, Brooks Austin had a very viral Twitter breakdown over the past couple of weeks on Alabama and how static they've been in coverage. And then, of course, it was a very tough outing for the Alabama secondary at the end of that first half, giving up the explosive play touchdown on 4th and 9. Okay. Let's get to a few other questions here. Fry Z says, yes, open up the playbook. Nico is all good, needs to read the field better. Also, please block better. Going to be a good game. Go, Vols, go. Okay. Loving Tony's insight from a neutral standpoint. He, of course, is an LSU fan. Obviously, Dylan Sampson has been fantastic. This will be more than likely the toughest defense that he has faced up to this point of the year. Obviously, Arkansas's defense up front has been better than most people expected them to be. Oklahoma's defense, of course, we know they are very stout up front, but, they had no offense and still hit those big explosive plays. You really had a good shot to limit the playbook like Tennessee did in the second half of this game. And then, of course, Florida's got some good players in the trenches, but it's nothing like what you're going to face on Saturday. Okay. Now, for me, the point spread is interesting. Alabama 3-point favorites. I expected that line to be what it is before the season. I would have, if you would have said, hey, before the year, what do you think the point spread is going to be for Alabama and Tennessee? I would probably say Bama by 2.5, 1.5. So 3 is about where I would have it. The total sitting at 56.5. If I had to choose between the two, I'd probably lean under because Tennessee's quarterback woes have been very mighty up to this point. I also think Tennessee needs to bench Nimrod. He's just not it. He strikes no fear in the opponents. And I'm a little shocked that Tennessee's not tried Matthews a little bit more. Maybe Vol fans or super Vol diehards could inform me on that, why Mike Matthews has not played more, because Nimrod, the drops were critical. Now, one guy that I've seen Nico really turn himself into, and this is a good and a bad thing, is Trevor Lawrence, right? They have some similarities. And the one thing that's interesting about both of them is I don't feel like either of them throw the absolute most catchable ball, right? I feel like there is a touch too much velocity on a lot of their throws, which leads to drops. So, it's different, right? Some quarterbacks throw a more catchable ball with the perfect amount of velocity, just not too hot, but just right. And I feel like Nico's had quite a few of those. And it's to the point now where you're starting to feel like Nico is just another coming of Joe Milton. Now, I understand that there has been a lot of comparisons and, Nico, he's playing worse now than Joe Milton was playing. And I think those are valid, but I don't think we age adjust enough. Obviously, Joe Milton, a year 6 player last year for Tennessee, and Nico only in year 2. Would you have liked to have seen Nico play better up to this point? Yeah, for sure. But tell me which year 2 quarterback has been phenomenal this year that had a lot of hype. Avery Johnson's been solid at Kansas State. Jackson Arnold has been a disaster. So there's a lot of year 2 quarterbacks that go through these growing pains because they are so young, and the sport is dominated by year 5 and year 6 guys. So let's be real here, okay? It's tough. It's tough. Did we think Nico is going to struggle this mightily? No. It's been a problem. It's been a major problem. Okay? Now, I did release my first edition, and I wanted to wait until this point in the season to discuss QB rankings. And this was something else I thought wasn't going to happen into this season. And I want Tennessee fans to give me your honest opinion on this. I actually have NICO outside of my top 8 QBs in the SEC. And at this point in the season, I move ahead the QB that beat him a few weeks ago in Taylor Green. All right, so this is my updated QB rankings in the SEC after week 7. Never did I think Diego Pavia would be in the top 4 and NICO completely out of the top 8. I'm not a huge Brady Cook guy. Honestly, think Connor Wigman's going to crack this list. A&M, they play Mississippi State this weekend. I think they'll take care of business. Could be a tricky game, though, in Starkville. Quinn Ewers probably should be higher, but, of course, the injuries are there, and he really didn't have to do anything in the Oklahoma game. But let me know what you guys think, because obviously you have the guy that I would have probably ranked 10th on this list in NICO going up against the guy that I have ranked 2nd in Jalen Milroe. And look, Jalen Milroe, a one-read, loves to lock in on that first target quarterback. But, man, his athleticism, his playmaking ability is just so insane. And the floor of Jalen Milroe is so high. And he does throw a really, really good deep ball. So I think the discrepancy in how these quarterbacks are playing right now is something of note. I think Milroe, even with the rough performance versus South Carolina, has exceeded expectations. And NICO, up to this point in the season, has fell well below those expectations. So there you go. Let's go to Volcano. Where was Thornton the whole game? Well, why does it not let me put comments up? Okay, there we go. Where was Dante Thornton? Yeah. I think at this point, he's a one receiver that's not really disappointed you guys. I like many of you, have been floored that Squirrel White has had the season that he's had, because there was so much promise and there was so much potential. You see him in the single-digit number, and he's just not done a whole lot. He had the tough hit at the end of the game prior to this versus Arkansas. He comes back this past week versus Florida and doesn't do a whole lot. Let's go to Tony. If the Vols defensive coaches watch Bama's last few games, Tim Banks, of course, the defense will hold Bama to punts and field goals and the occasional busted coverage. Are the Vols wide receivers healthy? Well, Tennessee fans, you let me know. I try to keep up with the injury report. Are there some players that you think will be out on Saturday? I really don't know. I did not check the injury report before I started for the second consecutive week. And also, as many of you know, Tennessee doesn't do many injury updates until it's time to release your injury report to the SEC. But yeah, we're about to go through a few other SEC games. Let's see. I still can't believe the Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams trades went down today. I love it. Man. So Scott V says Tennessee's wide receivers look good to go. Scott, I appreciate you. I got the cards you sent me. Where did I put them? Here we go. Still got them. The Diesel and the Kimbe. The funny thing is, I think you sent me the Kimbe card before he actually passed. So I appreciate it, man. This will go in the PC. I've not actually had a chance to separate the cards in the right sleeves. I got the Griffey card somewhere over here as well. So I appreciate it. Let's go to Tony. I'm just happy that the Vols and Tigers play at different times. It's been tough watching two games at the same time. Yeah, I am happy about that too, if we're being honest. I kind of wish because I'm not really the late night guy like I used to be. Going to the LSU Arkansas game this weekend, I really don't know how much I can handle in terms of a late night. But we'll go through some of the other SEC games this weekend, like we always do on this show. I do think one benefit is I'm still a big Norman Lott guy. 55 for Tennessee. I freaking love watching him play. So obviously all the other DTs, their snap count will go up. Okay. And obviously Peely is a linebacker. I had him confused with 51. That's on me. I was like, wait, Peely. I thought he was a backer. Number 11. Okay. That's on me. Keenan Peely. Now, we take a look at the SEC standings. I actually still do think Tennessee's backers will be fine. But still. Missouri 4.5 versus Alabama. Oklahoma 3. Getting 3 here versus South Carolina, or they're 3-point favorites. Alabama 3-point favorites versus Tennessee. A&M 15.5-point favorites at Mississippi State. That's a lot of points. LSU down to 2.5. It was 4.5 in favor of the Tigers. Texas 3.5 over Georgia. Kentucky and Florida a pick'em. And Vanderbilt 26-point favorites over Ball State. Ball freaking State. They are 2-4 this year in the MAC. So what is your loss of the year? But my apologies. I got Peely and 51 mixed up. That is my fault. Okay. So yeah, they have the tribal sleeve tats. I still shouldn't get them mixed up. So that's my apologies. But I do wish Peely a speedy recovery. And I still believe Norman Lott and those guys are going to step up for him. Okay. My apologies. So let's go to Jeremiah. He says, Nico's fine. He got knocked around by Arkansas and messed with his head. Same thing happened to Taylon Green when we played A&M. But Taylon bounced back, and I think Nico will also. Yeah, I also think the Florida game was a little bit better than what the stat line actually showed. All right, now I'm still a little bit reeling because I did go hammer Nico over his passing yard total this year going into the SEC at 2,500. It's not going to hit. But there were some open receivers. There was some good design. And Cole Kubelik had like a viral tweet earlier where he was talking about guys are actually open in Josh Heupel's scheme. You just need to execute it. And the thing that I would be concerned about if you're a Tennessee fan is you have the run game going, right? There was so much focus and energy and oxygen towards the Jalen Wright loss, and rightfully so, pun intended. Jalen Wright was really good. You know, he was really, really, really good at the early touchdown versus Kentucky last year, at the early touchdown versus Georgia last year. He's a really good football player. But Dylan Sampson has been just as good, if not better, than Jalen Wright this year. And if Tennessee keeps going the way that they're going, now he won't catch in terms of statistics Ashton Genty, but let's say Boise State loses a couple of games and Tennessee finds their way into the playoff picture. you could see Dylan Sampson with really, really, really outside shot of going to the Heisman ceremony. Now, it's an outside shot. He's not had like one cartoonish game, but all his stat lines are in that 90 to 125 yard mark. And he's been really, really solid. So we'll see. You're going to need Cooper Mays to play at the level that we know he can play at if you're going to win this game this weekend. So we'll go for another about 5 or 10 minutes. I always want to check in with Tennessee fans on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Central. Give me your lock of the week in the chat right now. Give me your lock of the week. Okay? Let's see. One thing, and I was going to keep this opinion to myself, but holy crap, I refuse to do any Tennessee Titans stuff on my NFL channel. I mean, what the hell? Jeremiah's got a parlay cooking up here. Arkansas and Tennessee money line. I like it. Scott's going Vols by 10. Oh, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Vols by 10. No, you said by 10 plus. Let's take a look at the poll question. 83% of you are going Vols. I'll give you my prediction before we get out of here. I am going to go with Alabama winning this game 31-20. That's where I'm going to go. I just don't know if Tennessee can score versus Alabama and score enough to beat Jalen Milroe. So I'm going to go 31-20. Alabama. But that'll do it for me. Really appreciate you guys once again every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central. It's been an absolutely crazy week. And I wish Tennessee nothing but the best. I hope I'm wrong. And when Tennessee wins, my life is better for the SEC film studies. So we will see you then. If you want more of me, I'll be live on my LSU channel tonight at 8:15 Central. It is Power Hour SEC. Boom! And tonight, oh, look, there's Jared. Vols won't win this game. Says Jared. Tonight, we are doing ravioli. Let's go. Let's go.